Hey guys, we have a lot of stuff to get through the night, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Design Dev OKC. My name's Kara. I am your host with my husband. We're Seed Interactive, and we do this every month, every second Tuesday. We get together, and this is kind of a place for you guys to get to know each other. That's our goal. We want to have a place where designers, developers, and creative professionals can come together and just get to know each other, see what everyone else is doing, and ultimately just do more cool things in our city. And we're excited to have you guys here tonight. It's a pretty good crowd. We're excited about that too. Let's see. Tonight, we are doing lightning rounds. And Alex with Tech Systems will be speaking. So we have that coming up. But first, I'm going to have a few announcements. In your chairs, there are announcements there. So I'll let you read through those, but I'll highlight the very first part. You can see who is speaking tonight and how you can tag them on Twitter so we can continue the conversation online. I have Will, where are you? Oh, yeah. He's live tweeting the event for us. So yeah, you can talk with him on Twitter. Yeah. And let's see. Also, we have, hold on. We have sign-up sheets. Okay, I'll talk to you a little bit. If you can pass that around, I'll take one then. So, aside from meeting every month, we also are on Slack. This is what this is. We've had a lot of messages. Last month I showed you 7.4 thousand, so we've been really talkative in the last month especially. But also, this is just a great place for you guys to connect with each other without getting email addresses or contact information. It's good for private messages, and it's a great place we have conversations about all kinds of things. Anyways, it's great. I encourage you to be a part of this community and be active. And then also, this is Hannah Ashford. I don't know if Hannah is here tonight. Is she? No. But she did our most recent takeover on Instagram. We have quite a few people who have done takeovers for us on Instagram, and they did a spectacular job. And we kind of ran through that list. And now I'm collecting a new list of people who are interested in doing that. But basically, it's a takeover where we hand you the keys to our account, and you kind of show us the work that you've been doing or where you work. And it's just a nice way for us to get to know other professionals and interact with them there. I have a content planner that help you plan your content easily, so it's not a huge task. So if you're interested, please sign up. And then, okay, I'll talk a little bit about our lightning rounds. So this is my little score, or not scorekeeper. We're not judging you. But yeah, I'm going to hold this sign up at 4 minutes and 30 seconds so that they know that, okay, they can start wrapping it up and start taking questions. And then whenever they start taking questions, you please ask them. And then I'll hold this sign up to let them know they should take their last question. So I don't want to interrupt their flow, but this kind of keeps us on pace. And we have quite a few interesting talks to get through. First up, though, is Alex Miller with Tech Systems. Tech System Digital has been bringing us food every month. They've brought some really good stuff. What's over there? Oh, insomnia cookies. Yes, yum. And they brought froyo one month and cookies, cupcakes, all kinds of things. So we've really appreciated that. Alex and Eric have been really helpful. Oh, Eric's walking in right now, actually. Yeah, maybe. Everyone cheer for Tech Systems. If you can give them a round of applause. This is Eric. Yeah. But they've been really helpful as far as providing resources to our group as well, professional resources, and they're really good for making connections and that kind of thing. But Alex, if you would like to come speak, I'll hand it over. And I'm going to awkwardly switch between slides too, but just...
Well, hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Long day at work? Second Monday of the week or first Monday of the week? It's second Monday for me. So I want to start out by first kind of taking a pulse of the room. Understand, has anybody heard of Tech Systems before, worked with us, or partnered with us in the past, aside from the fact that we bring you the really good carby food every Monday? A little bit? Okay, so some familiar faces for sure. So like Kara mentioned, my name's Alex Miller. I'm the account executive that works for our Tech Systems Digital and Creative Services Division here in the Oklahoma City area. What I'd like to do tonight is kind of give you a state of the union on where I think the market is today, where we're going to be going here in the next couple of years. You all should feel really excited and passionate about living in Oklahoma City today and where Oklahoma City is going. I've been with the organization for about 3 years or so, and there has been a vast change in Oklahoma City since my tenure with the organization. So I think you guys have some really exciting things to learn as we kind of look forward into what's going to happen next with Oklahoma City. And at the end, we'll certainly open it up if you guys have questions for myself or my partner Eric in the back. Him and I tag team together. So if you're not familiar with what Tech Systems is, we are a global-based organization. We're headquartered out of Baltimore, Maryland. If you're a Ravens fan, the owner of the Ravens actually owns our company, which is pretty cool. So we've got offices in pretty much every major market you could think of. Eric and I, as I mentioned, service the Oklahoma City area. And our Tech Systems Digital and Creative Services Division was spun up in the Seattle market and piloted there about 6 or 7 years ago. Historically speaking, we've seen that over time, our customers and clients have asked us to stay focused in IT organizations and technology organizations alone. But with the change of the market, the change of technology, the change of how you all interact with your customers on a day-to-day basis or interact with your clients on a day-to-day basis, we're finding that we need to start working with businesses and marketing organizations in order to really inflect change within kind of the community. So my role allows me, and Eric's role allows us to support any of our customers on the national scale, ranging from smaller boutique agencies, local tech startups, to large Fortune 500 companies, and everything in between. Basically, it's our goal as a technology service company to either find somebody to fit the job that you're looking to fill, identify a career opportunity or career advancement for you particularly, or ultimately, if hopefully you just have so much business on your plate that you have no idea what you're going to do to be able to solve your next business challenge or deliver on your next project, we've got the capabilities of doing that so as well. So with that, these are some of the skill sets that we specifically support to our clients. So if you possess any of these skills, we can help you. If you are looking for any of these skills, we can also help you as well. A majority of our focus has been predominantly in the design and the development side of the house, but over the last several years, we've had to branch out and work on some of those functional and strategic and MarTech positions that our customers have been asking for, because that's kind of what we're seeing. So this next slide that I'm going to show you was pretty interesting one, because I felt like I needed to go watch Superman or Iron Man shortly after I saw the infographic, but these are jobs that weren't available in the market 10 years ago. As it relates to anything on the technology side of the house, everything changes on a dime and changes instantly. So it's really interesting to see that 10 years ago, folks weren't really asking us for individuals in the social media space, or weren't asking us for user experience designers, not even quite understanding what really that term actually means. And so you'll see the progression that we've seen just over the last 10 years. And I think Oklahoma City and where we stand today is right at the beginning phase to where in the next year or 2 years, there's going to be some really awesome things that are going to be happening in the market based on the conversations that I've had with local hiring managers, local C-level executives, and ultimately people that are looking for jobs here in the marketplace. So ultimately, what it really boils down to is that in Oklahoma City right now, there's really essentially a war on talent. And again, I mentioned earlier that you all should feel really, really good about where you're at today. There are so many jobs and so many positions available, and there's simply not enough of you talented individuals out there. I think the number is by the end of 2020, we're going to be looking at over 1 million jobs that go unfilled just simply based on the lack of talent. So if that doesn't help you understand how highly sought after your skill sets are in the Oklahoma City market as well as on a national scale, I don't know really what else to tell you other than the fact that you guys are really, really awesome people right now and are really highly sought out after. Any questions on that so far before we walk into kind of some trends that we're seeing establish and rotate here in Oklahoma City? Nope. Very cool. So the first thing that I would like to kind of cover is the digital transformation piece. And underneath that, you'll see mobile user experience, product versus project, and then data and analytics. Those last four kind of all roll up into this digital transformation. So one thing that I've been noticing over my conversations over the last several months and some of my colleagues and partners here in the local area has been this word digital. It means everything and then nothing at the exact same time. And if you ask this person on this side of the room and you ask somebody over here, chances are you're going to get a variance in what that actually means. But ultimately, organizations are trying to figure out how they can communicate and operate faster, quicker, and cheaper. And so these subsets that I have listed underneath digital transformation are a part of that and what some organizations are looking to do today. So if your organization currently that you work for doesn't have a mobile strategy in place, ask somebody what you're planning on doing, or come grab me because I'd love to talk to them and figure out what they're trying to accomplish. If someone's not focused on the user experience side and putting customers first and ultimately how an organization is communicating and interacting with their customers regularly, ask them what their plan is in that area as well. I'm excited for you guys to hear some of the speakers tonight. I know a few of them personally myself, and I know that they're going to have some really good tips and tricks and things that they've worked through in the past, user experience being at the forefront of them all. Additionally, another thing that I'm seeing in Oklahoma City is this concept of product versus project, to where basically people really need to start thinking and operating with a product mindset, not necessarily a project. And I think there's a lot of technology organizations that are falling really far behind with this and not understanding this concept. I'm sure some of you are probably experiencing that today, but the more that you can push your organizations to understand that they need to start adapting a product concept rather than a project-based concept and not delivering something 18 weeks from now, but continuously developing a product that's going to support your customers, get them to push them and go that way. The next thing that we're starting to see as well is the data and analytics space, and basically how organizations are collecting data on a regular basis and ultimately utilizing that to influence and communicate with their customers. So one thing that we're seeing is that folks are communicating more rapidly on devices like these. I don't know if anybody really does anything other than what's on an iPad or on a cell phone nowadays. And so the more that organizations can take this data that they all have access to for free and start adapting and changing their business policies, the better off that I think the organization is going to be long term. So how does this all relate to you in terms of where you're at in your career and what you're trying to do? If you have an expertise or a focus in any of these areas, continue to improve your craft, continue to improve your trade, and keep up to date with what's changing and what's happening in Oklahoma City, because one thing that we see is on the coast, trends always happen, whether it's music, fashion, technology. It always happens on the outside and then finally works their way into Oklahoma. And we're now on that cusp where finally people are starting to ask me, hey, what's this mobile thing? What should we be doing? Do you work with any mobile developers? Or, you know, I think I need to experience, or I think I need to focus on this user experience, or I don't know if I need a visual designer or if I need a front-end developer, or what the case may be. Start pushing people to think that way. And if you can hone your craft in on any of these items here, you're going to be in a really, really good spot. So how can we ultimately help you all? By attending this event tonight, my partner Eric and I have access to several other networking events here locally that we'd be more than happy to recommend. As Kara mentioned earlier, we've connected her and a few other individuals in this room with some other folks in the community that they might not know. If you've got a challenge or a problem that you're looking to solve and you don't know how to get to it, or you need to lean on somebody that may have done it before in the past, I'm happy to make that connection, whether it's over coffee, over lunch, whatever the case may be. If you're interested in career opportunities and advancing and moving forward, we can help you with that too. We're working with customers on a daily basis that are seeking individuals like you. We'd be happy to help you develop your portfolio, happy to help you develop your resume, and ultimately get you to that next stage in your career and hopefully keep you here. When I started working with Kara several months ago, one of my biggest interests was how can we keep talented folks in Oklahoma City and continue to build sustainable jobs for you to be able to build a career here. And so if there's anything that I can do to keep you from leaving the market and going to an Austin or going to a Chicago or going to a Seattle, I want to do everything I possibly can to help you and know that you're highly sought after. So if we can do anything to help in the advancement or the opportunity space, that's great. And then on the flip side, if you're a business owner and you need help with workforce planning or determining what strategies you need to put in place to help propel your organization forward, I'm happy to do that as well. Sit down and talk with you. I've got about 85 of me on a national scale that are working with the Amazons and the Googles and the Disneys of the world that I'm more than happy to get you in contact or give you the appropriate direction and information that you may need to be able to make strategic decisions. So with that being said, there's Eric and I's contact information. I do have a slide deck that I was provided today, unfortunately, after I had already made this, around some specific skill sets that we're going to see that are going to be really popular in 2018. I've shared that on my Twitter and my LinkedIn page today, but Kara, I'll get that to you so that we can send that out as well. But some of the things that we're going to see that are going to be moving forward are digital business analytics, mobile development, a lot around content, whether that's behavioral analytic, or I'm sorry, content management, or content strategy specifically. We're seeing e-commerce pick up quite a bit, creative direction, mobile design, and then that digital project management. So if there's anything that you're interested in hearing about specifically, please grab one of us. Be happy to let you know. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, I'm going to let Ty get plugged in. He's our first speaker, and I had said I have this little card thing that I'm going to be showing my speakers, but yeah, just set it back there. If you are sad that you didn't get your question in, please feel free to introduce yourself to the speakers afterwards and ask them then or ask them on Twitter. Don't feel shy. But yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Ty.
Okay, so my name is Ty Carlson. I am the lead front-end developer at DateBox. If you haven't heard of DateBox, it is a local startup. We are working towards providing resources for couples to strengthen their relationship. Our main product is a date night in a box that we send you every month. So just a way that you can be intentional about having a date night with your significant other. What I want to talk a little bit about tonight is just one of the projects that I've been working on in my last couple of months since I started at DateBox is building out a design system. And so these will just be kind of some tips that I have worked through on that project. So tips for building out a design system or pattern library or style guide or whatever your favorite blog is calling it this week. But essentially it's just a collection of visual components, vocabulary, code conventions that you use to make sure that your design is cohesive across all of your products in your company. First tip, just remember that a design system is dynamic. It's going to be changing. You're going to have new features. It's going to be in flux. And so with that, the first thing that you should build when you start working on this is a process for how to make those changes. That can be as simple as just making sure that it is a Git repo and you're making pull requests, or you can have something that's a lot more formal. But just make sure you have that groundwork on how you're going to make changes moving forward, because you will need to make changes. You'll have bugs or new features, like I said. And also, like, prioritize your design system as its own product, or it will die or will become ineffective. What that means is dedicate sprint tasks to it. Dedicate entire dev cycles to maintaining and managing the design system, or else it will just end up being useless. Next tip is to control your colors. I'm a big advocate of making sure that every color that makes its way into a design system is predefined up front. The way that a lot of myself and a lot of other front-end developers have done this is by assigning your hex values to variables. That way you can use them across your code, but that ends up creating variable hell, where you have a variable named brand primary alt light, which means nothing and is completely useless and you can never remember it. This process that I am currently implementing, I stole from Shopify, but it is creating a SAS map of all of your colors. It's just a basic key value pair, just like an array or hash or whatever you're used to doing. But you set up your main colors. I like to do a 2 shades lighter, 2 shades darker, your base and your text color. And then you can create a SAS function. I named it just color. You pass in your main color and then whichever tint of it you want, it'll return that hex value. Where this really gets fun is the bottom right example, where I can then loop over that array and automatically create variations for my components like buttons. So anytime I add a new color into my color array, it automatically generates that button color for me as well. And there's tons of other examples of how you can use that, but that's just an example. Next tip is to separate your spacing. Vertical spacing is going to kill you. As you start like locking up these different components together into layouts, you're going to run into something like this, where you have a nice heading and then you want some space in between your content below it. And as soon as I write H1 with a margin bottom of 1.5 ren, my designer is going to do this and just screw everything up because that spacing is now going to be messed up. So I am moving towards just completely ripping out all of my vertical spacing from the components themselves and moving towards utility classes. Utility classes meaning just like single one-off classes that do a very specific thing, like MB1 or MB7, meaning margin bottom 1 in the first element in my spacing scale, or margin bottom 7, the last element. So tachyons is a good resource for this. It's just like pushing forward with that utility class idea. I'm not locked into completely using that for everything, but these vertical spacing ones are great. So create a spacing scale, dynamically build those classes that you need, and then just add your spacing in your markup as you go. It'll make things a ton easier. And the last tip, give your teammates the best tools to do their job. And what I mean by that is, for developers, is just to document everything. In the development side of things, that's kind of obvious, but front end, that doesn't make as much sense. CSS used to be super simple. You didn't really need to document anything unless you were fixing some stupid IE bug. Nowadays, with preprocessors, SAS lists, that kind of things, you're writing more complex functions and mix-ins, and you want to make it easy for your next developer to understand what you're doing when they come in. For designers, provide them real working production-ready code. I'm not a believer that every designer needs to code their own stuff, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't give them the resources to do so if they wanted to. So as your design system is probably, if you're making it be its own product, it's probably going to have an actual like web property somewhere. Give them a visual of what a component looks like and the HTML to make it happen underneath of it, and you might be surprised by your random print designer that is mocking up web layouts. That's all that I had. 5 minutes goes very quickly. Thank you. If you have any questions, we have a few minutes for those. Yeah. I mean, there's the question, if I just repeat it so everybody can hear it, is does the design system use any other sort of framework? I personally don't like baking in a framework into my design system. The design system kind of is essentially its own tiny little bootstrap or tiny foundation. I mean, personally for this one, I'm using the Bourbon and Neat grid just because it's a nice, simple, easy to use grid. There's no reason to kind of rewrite that, but yeah, I mean, it goes either way, and you can do whichever one. But. I do not currently. I've only been at Datebox for a couple of months, but we do have, like I said, the process in place for how to do that. But for right now, we're just kind of tackling bugs or fixes as they come. But that is a great idea to just kind of go ahead and bake that into our schedule to address it. I have a communications degree. I finished the degree and realized it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I have always been like interested in tech stuff. I actually interviewed for a job without knowing any HTML or CSS and got the job. I bought a CSS book and read it that week and was pumped out some really terrible websites for a few months, but then just kind of move forward from there. Yeah, so the question was, does this work with React or Angular, any kind of front-end framework? And this will actually be the last question. I have found that, yes, it absolutely works just fine. With React, it's a little bit different because you're like writing all of your HTML code in JavaScript, but you still have classes and you still, like, it's still essentially the same thing. So I think React Native would probably be a little bit different. But with React, you can absolutely use it. I have zero experience with Angular, so can't answer that side of it. But yeah, that was the last question. Thank you guys very much.
On the sheet that was handed out, he has slides linked if you want to catch up if you miss anything. This is Jessica. She's at Saxum. And sorry, what? Oh, great. Oh, great. Or on Twitter. Yeah. I'll let Jessica.
All right. I'm Jessica Robbins, and I'm going to definitely talk a little bit about the idea of UX Plus. I'm a associate creative director and UX strategist for Saxum. We're an agency that serves consumers, businesses, as well as B2B. And I have a unique challenge when I work with B2B clients. I wanted to talk about an idea of taking our traditional UX process and kind of mixing it up a little bit. First, UX encompasses the basic definition of UX from Nielsen Norman Group. It really focuses on the end user's interaction with company, its services, and its products. What I'm finding is this definition is really limited and not very inclusive to a lot of what I do with clients, especially B2B. In fact, it's quite exclusive. For one, B2B clients, they don't work with individual personas. You know, they're working with entire companies as people. So they're attracting another company. They're not attracting a single individual. So if you think of the individual UX process and basing all our UX decisions on a persona, we have to kind of switch that out. Instead of doing an individual persona, we have to think of it as a company, a business persona. Also, the client's business itself is a use case. When we talk about B2B UX, the business is a use case. The business will be using the product they're developing for consumers or other businesses. So when you change it up, you get this idea of UX Plus, which is an optimized UX process for B2B marketing. UX Plus takes everything that we do with regular UX, you know, the persona modeling, except we're modeling businesses instead of individuals. It takes all the planning, it takes everything that you're used to, but it adds a new layer that encompasses all aspects of the business's interaction with its own product, okay? So you have to not only think about your end users, but you also have to make the business you're working for part of that definition of an end user. So why kind of have a separate approach for B2B? I mean, is that really necessary? Can't we just use the same process? Well, B2B businesses have some universal qualities and therefore universal needs that I feel like can be addressed. And oftentimes when we work with businesses, they forget about their internal stakeholders. It's very natural to have an outward focus about who we're reaching, and a lot of them forget that they're using their own product, and the people that are using their product are much like them. So I think it's important to have a process that adapts to B2B so that we don't leave these things out. And on the screen are just a couple of the challenges that we work with when we're working with B2B on UX. UX Plus is about empowerment, alignment. So by empowerment, I'm thinking it's the traditional UX process. We're empowering users to accomplish goals, overcome barriers, be delighted, live a better life. And the plus is we're focusing on alignment. We're making the business part of the definition of the end user. B2B UX is about how one business aligns with the objectives of another business or other business units. And at its deepest level, it's how one business aligns internally to support the experience you're creating. So here we have traditional UX pyramid. Most people are familiar if you're a UXer. We go from something tactical and functional to something meaningful and delightful. That's the ultimate goal, is to create a better experience. We're still doing that in B2B. That's still very important, still very relevant. But what we aren't doing enough of is alignment. We're not taking the time to align business operations and understand the business landscape that we're creating the experience for. This is really important. It's about looking at those different layers, from the vision, which is a shared articulation of the target experience, to the surface, which is touch points like the website, the apps, which people interact with, the plumbing, which is the tech stack, platforms and systems, all the way down to the capability, which includes having the right people with the right skills in the right places, how changes are made, as discussed earlier, and the ways that the company works. The whole idea of UX Plus is this. When you think about your experience on this side, where is it going to fall apart on the other side? Why spend the time to make a beautiful experience that can't be sustained or supported by the business that you're working for? We had the opportunity to work with a great client called HSI Sensing here in Oklahoma City. They have national clientele, and they are a tech business, and they make sensors. To put it plainly, they have stuff on the International Space Station that depends on nanomillimeters of accuracy. They're right here in Oklahoma, and they have an awesome tech offering. But they came to us with a lot of problems. They had broken and limited search on their site, along with an outdated site. They had no brand differentiation. They had a confusing offering for their clients and customers. And they were a tech company without a tech interface. So we were lucky to be approached to rebrand them, but we were also able to do a discovery with them. And in that discovery, we took time to do a biz ops performance check. We took 30 minutes and discussed with the client these 4 lines. And what became very clear was some misalignments. Their vision was to be the catalyst that helps drive innovation in virtually any and every industry. But what became apparent was that their surface did not reflect that vision, i.e. the outdated website, old rebranding that didn't represent innovation, and their plumbing did not include the tech that matched the user or business needs. However, they had the capability and the subject matter expertise and the intellectual property to make that happen. So we focused on surface and plumbing. Along with an entire rebrand of this company, we rolled out a new website experience. And on that website was a product finder. Now, this is not revolutionary in the world. However, it is in this space. And what we did is we took something very complex and drilled it down into a product wizard that was highly visual. It had advanced search, totally customizable, scalable for the growth of the company, and it became a business development tool. Search visually by industry and type and keyword, over 100 different filters that lead up to that nanomillimeter accuracy, and filtering, responsivity, and no dead ends. All blank searches were directed to a custom solutions service, which generated additional new business for the client. Now, all of this was because of UX Plus, this idea. We took the time to take the problem with the search, evaluate the business landscape, and design something that elevated the experience and made it more effective. Now, competitors are catching up and copying this experience. So what are we doing now? We're going back to BizOps and UX to see what else we can do to innovate for that company. So UX Plus is an approach for identifying opportunities for both you as an entrepreneur, your business, and the businesses that you work for. It makes sense for B2B, but it can work anywhere. Some UXers do build this into their process, but in case you did not, it's worth a try. So, questions. That was a lot, I know. Who works on, oh, yeah, go ahead. Yes, their sales are 30%, yes, 30% increase and a 22% increase in their rapid solutions, I believe, their custom solutions. So they're getting, it's increasing, and then just their SEO and their just overall experience has increased the sites of it. So a lot of things attribute that into including how people come to the site. So we can't include all of that, but it's been helpful. It hasn't been translated to dollars. It's only been out 7 months, 8 months. Yes, so the wrangling and the content in general of this process was a beast. So we had to have a governance plan to get all that. Luckily, they had a very up-to-date database and CRM tool, so they were an ERM tool for us to integrate with. We just had to basically map out their products and their categories and make sure everything fit. Yep. Well, our discovery is actually 3 or 4 hours plus several weeks, going over BizOps in a very light way without getting into like CX and customer experience. Mapping allows us to target, see those things at a high level without having to be customer experience space. It allows us to red flag things for the client, say, hey, we can be successful if we fix this. It makes our product better. So it just takes 30 minutes. So we did qualitative through just a couple of their customers and their engineers. That was all we were able to do within our budget and our time frame. The results is anywhere from 20 to 30% improvement in versions and leads. So it's been really fantastic, and we're really excited, and it was really about going from UX to kind of a UX ops perspective. So thanks, guys.
Hey guys, my name is Rory Tubbs. I am a senior UX interaction designer at GE. I know that's a mouthful. What does that even mean? I'm a product designer at GE. A fun fact for you, GE Digital is on the track to be one of the world's top 10 biggest software companies by 2020. And one of those primary reasons is because design and the investment they have in design. So what do I do at GE? I do research, heuristic analysis, prototypes, everything that falls underneath the UX research and the UX design perspective. And really, GE kind of has this mentality that they kind of require their designers to understand a little bit of research. And I actually believe personally that it benefits a designer to understand research, but also understand code a little bit as well. And that gives them the greater perspective of how a project and how everybody else on their team is going to be working with them on that product. So I'm going to talk about creating creating a culture for UX based off of my 11 years of designing and what we are learning currently at GE. First though, is I want to say UX is not a person. Design is about solving a problem through a creative solution, which takes a village to be impactful. So you have to be honest with yourself and be humble. You can't do this alone. You can't build these products by yourself. It really takes a team to do this. It also requires ownership, not from you, but also with those people on your team. So within GE, everybody has a seat at the table, from dev, engineering, project managers, architects, stakeholders, everything like that. And they aren't really they aren't driving the design direction, but they have perspectives that we as the design team, maybe we don't understand or we didn't think through at the beginning. And then another thing is culture has to be built, and sometimes that culture takes a long time. And this kind of applies to startups or freelancers or large companies. So building the culture. So we've had quite a few struggles building a design culture at GE. GE is a 125-year-old company, and they have a lot of old school thinking that software as a service, like these things are done, our products are done. In reality, as most of you guys know, building products is an iterative process, and it's really, GE has always been about data, but it's about data and empathy. You read the data, but you listen to the people. And so some of the artifacts we've created to help build this culture, we do share and educate. So we do like brown bags and stuff like that, where we share out things that we've written, things that people have written that we find interesting. But we also, we've written a glossary of all UX design terms that anyone can ever think of. And we point our people, our team members to that glossary to understand when we say prototype, what does that really mean? Or high fidelity mockup, what does that really mean? Wireframes, everything like that. And whenever people don't use the proper terms, we really challenge them. And not to be sticklers with our terminology, but we believe that when people understand the terminology, they really have a buy-in into what design means. And that's really important to create a culture, is you want people to have buy-in for design. You want people to see design as valuable. So we also, we advocate our process. When we work on our products, we sit down with the teams and we say, okay, this is where we're at. This is what you're going to be getting. This is where we're going to be in a few weeks. This is how long it's going to take. And of course, that always doesn't work out like we planned, but we want to advocate our process and how we do things. And then another very, very important part is communication. We've really changed the way how we communicate. We stopped using the word finished and handoff because this is an iterative process. It's not, I'm not as a designer and then I just pass everything over to the dev and I'm like, you deal with it now. This is a back and forth conversation of not just dev, but content writers, because they're writing content for our applications too. It's very important for them to understand how we're designing, why we're designing, so they can understand how to write good content to make sense as well. So we also, this is a bit more of a challenge, but we've also tried to stop using the word user and started using person or the actual persona name. We've found that having a name actually develops more empathy and relationship with our actual people that we're designing for. And so we've tried to stop saying user and try to refer to them as people or their persona name. And I wanted to share this slide with you. I found this slide not too long ago. I felt it was very encouraging, and it kind of, it tells you about how design cultures have to be built. So if you look at IBM from 2010 to 2012, they had one designer for every 72 developers. And then this past year, they have one designer for every 8 developers. So you see there is change happening with design cultures. There is these companies are seeing the importance of design and putting a lot of money into the design culture. I know that was a short 5 minutes, but I'd love to talk to you guys about anything UX or maybe even working at GE someday. My contact information is in the handouts along with some resources. And with that being said, any questions? For new designers? Well, it's different between different organizations within GE Digital, because I mean, we have several hundred of designers, but we have basically packets that we hand off over to them of like what our Slack channels are, where our resources are at, what sketch files you need to find, what daily or weekly meetups you need to be part of, stuff. So we have it's kind of like a packet that's handed off, and there's also a design liaison who's kind of walks you through that process of, because we're a huge company and what all they need to be aware of and what they know. No, definitely not a handout because it'd be many pages. So it kind of, we started of just like the design team just adding stuff and like kind of referencing it internally, because even there were some designers that weren't using proper verbiage, which, you know, I hate to be a killjoy with that, but like when you're having an organization this big, the words matter and how you describe the things you're working on. But so we started to work on it more internally between our team. But then we started to really advocating it. We'd put it in our signatures, in our links, or if we correct somebody in an email in our meeting, we send them to a link. It's basically an internal link that they can go on. It has several hundreds of definitions of people. And we kept it really short and as simple as possible, not trying to go super in depth like psychology and stuff like that, but try to keep it short as possible. Anybody else? Yep. I mean, GE kind of has a different philosophy than more of like than qualifications. I mean, I came back from an engineering background that I went to design about 10 years ago. It's really more about cultural fit and just kind of some basic understandings of, is this person teachable? Are they willing to learn? Are they hungry? Are they aggressive with trying to learn new things? Like how often are they researching or wanting to kind of push the bar on stuff like that? So there's really not like per se qualifications, at least within my organization. It's really, we look at cultural fit first and then kind of how you would jive with the team. Because it's, to me, it's more about a person's personality, and then we can kind of find a fit for you to fit within the organization versus like, hey, I'm from this school and I have this degree, but I really suck as a person. So kind of important. Yeah. Yeah. So, well, yeah, from digital specifically. Yeah, I mean, that's for G Digital, yeah. So, I mean, you have other business units like healthcare, aviation, stuff like that, that we build products for. But yeah, we follow close to a methodology called FastWorks, which is very agile, very like customer ideation, iterative process. And there's training that G offers for that, and going through safe training, stuff like that for agile development. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Alrighty. Here we're gonna drink from a fire hose. Ask some specifics. Let's see. Alrighty. So since I know like 4 of you in this place, I'm gonna do a quick intro so you can know me a little bit better. And Instagram's always a good way to do that. So married, got 4 beautiful girls. I love to travel, love being outdoors, love to take artsy photos. I love to build stuff with my hands after sitting on my butt all day long. Love to drink whiskey, especially Japanese whiskey. And about 3 years ago, started Future House with some guys here in town. We're a design dev shop, and we have a bunch of fun clients that we do great work for, and I'm going to walk you through one of those projects. It's for the Chickasaw Nation, and it's for their their health division. And for us, we always start a lot of the projects, a lot of the UX interactions with figuring out what problems are. And so we start with, what are the problems, identifying them. The Chickasaw Nation in general is under a crushing blow of being health. They are an unhealthy nation. And what I mean by that is diabetes, heart disease, obesity, and other chronic diseases will increase threefold by 2020. The healthcare cost alone is growing at an alarming rate, and it's really, truly an exponential rate for them. So they're sitting there, their leaders are trying to figure out, what do we do to move forward and get out from underneath this? Another problem that they have is an evaporating culture. Sadly, time is running out. Fewer and fewer of the Chickasaws understand the richness of their culture, and even fewer can read or speak Chickasaw. So that's really 2 of the problems that this whole project started in. And out of that was birthed Aya. Aya is the Chickasaw word to go and move ahead. And it's Aya, the homeland journey. And I'll walk you through it a little bit. What's unique about it is it's building behavior change. It's a health app that uses the user's own step count to unlock specific rewards for their active lifestyle. Points of interest, fictional characters, and sharing of Chickasaw content are all kind of the carrot that we're hoping to prod them forward into a healthier lifestyle. So addressing the health problem, how do we do that? We're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep people moving. Active steps. They're not going to join a gym. They're not going to take a class. We're just going to have them move and be healthy and active. We're going to help them build habits. Habits are a super powerful tool in behavior change, and if you guys want to learn some really interesting things to add to your process of UX and things like that, read some great books about habits, how to form habits, how to hack habits. It's some really interesting stuff. In addition, we're going to reward their activity, obviously, but then we're going to go back to some basics that, partner for success. Think about it. When you go to a gym, you always do better when you have a partner. No one ever walks alone. These kinds of mentalities. How are we going to tackle the culture issue? We're going to give them an active role in their history. We're going to use the rich Chickasaw history to inspire action, educate the user, and hopefully keep them captivated. Okay, so walking through Aya. Aya in its current form are 2 native apps, iOS and Android, and I'll walk you through kind of functionally the nuts and bolts of it really quickly. As the user onboards, they are presented with 5 Chickasaw characters that are fictional characters that they can pick with, and these are their walking partners. We want them to have an emotional attachment to these characters. And what are they going to be doing? They're their walking partners. So they're going to start on a path and a journey. The Chickasaw Nation is located in Ada, Oklahoma. They weren't always located in Ada, Oklahoma. If you guys remember your history lessons, the Trail of Tears and all that, their actual home base is located in the northeast quarter of Mississippi. So we're going to have them walk along a virtual path from Oklahoma to Mississippi. We're going to count their steps and allow them to move along that path, and they're going to be doing a bunch of different stuff. And one of them is, the key of that is kind of the biggest component is they're going to be unlocking the episodes of their walking partner. They've got 25 episodes for their partners, and these are a fictional story that will allow them to kind of have an emotional attachment to their character, kind of prod them along as they walk, unlock the content. The next are medallions. These are points of interest that are actual real physical points of interest tied to a map ranging from the Mississippi swamp to the Mississippi River or the Ada, Oklahoma White House and whatnot. Kind of sandwiched in between these kind of the episodes and the points of interest, we're delivering them the Chickasaw words. So they will receive a word both in English and in Chickasaw that they can play the audio. And it's kind of a reinforcer for them. In addition, prayers, Chickasaw prayers. And this is, again, kind of to keep them engaged and moved along in the process, because walking, it takes you about anywhere from, well, for the average person, it will be about 35,000 steps to unlock an episode. You're going to have to haul in order to unlock these episodes. So we were figuring out ways to keep them engaged, not this thing of like, what's this app on my phone? I don't remember why did I download it? So try to keep them in touch, try to keep them prodding along on the journey that they're in. The other large component of it is the leaderboard. We're going to take the 3-day total, and we're going to slide you into different levels based upon your social connections. That way there's a good healthy dose of competition inside the app. And all these are touch points based upon kind of tried and true UX rules. They touched about it, I forget the second person name. Delight and surprise is one of the things that we talk about a lot. It's a key component. It's surprising to me nowadays how much I say that. But we want to surprise them as much as we can. We want to keep them happy. We want to keep them, pleasantly, a delight side of things. We want to help them get a win, and we do that through technology and making it easy for them. Like, we kind of analyze their step rate, and if they need a little bit of a boost, we give them a boost. If they need some help, we give them some help. We want people to succeed. And the last one is, push notifications to keep them engaged. If it's been a while since they opened up the app or haven't been moving, we're going to use positive messaging, positive reinforcement to move them along. 5 minutes? Or not a lot of time? That, lots. This is probably the best client relationship that I've ever worked with. And they are great. They've offered a historical, cultural side of things, plus a communications team. And so we partner with them because, man, if we look around and we're like, we're a small shop, we don't have any of this, And so, yeah, we lean on the nation a lot. Yeah. So the nation, I'll just put out some numbers for the sake of example. Let's say their overall healthcare cost is $100 million, okay? And let's just say, you know, and if they can improve the overall personal health of their nations, their citizens, by even 1%, it's $1 million savings to the nation. So they are looking at really interesting and creative ways to try to improve just overall health. And they said, let's just try these different things. And so getting people active, staying healthy are all great things for a nation to do. Yeah, well, it is a nation, and so it is working with the government. We started the project back in spring of 2016. We're going to be launching in October, and a lot of that has been doing a lot of the checks and balances with content. Elizabeth over there has helped us with a lot of the illustrations, and we've gone back and forth on this idea of there's not a lot of historical record for some of these, you know, even just the drawings, and there's not a lot of support photos. And so if they're going to produce something, they want it to be 100% right because it's going to be a thing of record for them. And so it's been a lot of ongoing, constant, okay, we're going to have to spin this down, spin it up. Overall development time, maybe 9 months, you know, if that, from start to where we are today. All right, sweet. Anyone else? We've worked, this is going to be our third project with them. And this client, no joke, has been like the dream client. They hired us as experts and they let us be those experts. And so it would probably be surprisingly done. You know, they've really leaned on us to be the experts. We come in, we set the roadmap, and they are trusting. Thanks, y'all. I'll be the first one to say that I am not a designer. Now, yeah, okay.
Well, I'm Bradford Ullrich. I'm a product designer at Sonic Drive-In, and Sam is my boss, technically. He's been my boss, and then not my boss, and my boss again, so we kind of just gotten used to it being fluid. And we work for Sonic Drive-In. It's a little different than Zach's work in trying to keep people healthy, but we do the best that we can. And so Sam and I both started, let me go back a little bit here. There we go. We both started about 3 years ago at Sonic. Sonic had a history of going from agency to agency to agency for every project they did. And so everything was a campaign, and nothing was really a product. And so they had kind of an API sitting around, but it's something we're still trying to retire. But there wasn't really a product vision for the company. And so what we've tried to do over the past few years is instill product thinking and get people out of the kind of microsite mentality they've been in the past. And so let me just get a few things out of the way here. We don't know them. They have come into the office a couple times. We don't really have an opinion, good or bad, on them. And I think we're coming on 10 seconds, so that's like $4,000 to show that picture of them. They're very expensive. 2, yes, we are working on tipping. We get that question a lot. We are trying our best we can. The UI has been done for a year. It's more that there's 3,500 payroll systems that we have to talk to with a franchise system. So we're working on that. We'll get it there later this year. It's really, really hard. So just to go through some of the products that we work on at Sonic, the first product we tackled was redesigning the website, and this was about 3 years ago. It's, I think, aged okay, but we're redesigning it again in the fall, so we'll be creating a new one. So if you hate it, let me know what you hate and tell me what you want to replace. The app is the second piece of that. We just launched a new app about a month ago. It was a struggle working with the old one for a long time, but we're pretty proud of it. And so this summer, we're going to have a lot more things like, we're ordering, tipping eventually. And so it's a product. It's going to be a living thing, and we're going to add to it. But we're trying to teach that to the company as we go. The third piece is the touchscreens at Sonic. It's called POPs internally. People call it a bunch of different things. But it's the point of personalized service. And so we're trying to make it more personalized over time. Right now, it's kind of an advertising platform, but if you interact with the app, you can check in to the screen at the stall, and it creates a more personalized experience so that you can pay with your phone right now, but eventually you'll be able to pick up your order and see your favorites and get recommendations and things like that. Zach at Future House actually helped design a lot of the stuff that we show here on POPs. So thank you, Zach. Looks good. And it's actually out there now, which is cool. And so, okay, let's get back to the beginning. So what is product design, I guess is what we're talking about. This is a question I asked myself a few years ago. It wasn't really like a philosophical thing. It was literally, I asked myself this because I was interviewing for a product design job, kind of like Ty. And so I knew I was like a UI designer, I was a UX designer, I was whatever you want to call it these days, and I saw a lot of crap like this. And so it was like UI versus UX versus product versus whatever you want to call it this week. But really, I mean, this one is the best example I've seen of it, is that it's kind of an evolution of like, you do this, you pick up skills here and there, and it's really changing with how technology changes. So first we were designing websites, then we were designing apps, then we kind of had to get a little more broad, and now we design products because these things have to last more than the microsite life cycle. And so product design is software design. It's something that evolves over time.
Yeah, so product design, software design, if you want to go to the next one. I think we look at this list right here and we say, okay, UX, UI, copywriting, prototyping, code, and how does that fit into a product designer's daily kind of schedule? And then from that standpoint, maybe their counterpart is a product owner or someone who's managing that product. And from our kind of experience, and I think I've been in from a project coordinator in my early days to working with Zach at YouVersion as kind of a project lead on the management of that product throughout the life cycle. A product owner, product designer is a lot of these things. And when we're looking at it from a team standpoint, we want product owners and product designers that are strong in a couple of those areas, because more than anything, they're a collaborator. There's somebody who are going to branch into, at Sonic, our vendor partners who then do work for us. So they have to have a broad understanding about all of these things, and they might be really good at one thing. And so we go, I think, to the next one. Yes, oh, sorry, that might have stole Brad's thunder here, but not all designers should code. Designers who design things that will be coded should code. And I think like he's going to comment on this in a second, but that's what we're looking for, is people that are just really passionate about building things and can concept and have a strength in an area that then can be in a team fashion kind of make the entire project win. You saw that with some of the stuff on POPs. We utilized a lot of product designers, and there's 3 designers that actually whose work made it into the final design.
I don't have much else to say to this. I think it's important to know your materials, and I think that if you're designing something that's going to be coded, the more that CSS advances, the more that the internet advances in apps, you have to know how these materials actually interact, and you can't just draw a picture of it. So we talked about this earlier. If your design evolves and adapts, rather than being replaced after a couple of years, you're probably working on a product. And Sam, you're going to talk about this one a little bit more. As digital experiences become more integrated, companies need to give them more attention.
Yes, so everything that we do at Sonic is 3 platforms. You got to think of POPs, mobile, and app. We have updated all those 3 platforms in the past 3 years, so the trifecta was the mobile app, and now they're all talking together. And I think from an omni-channel perspective, like as a product designer, product owner, you have to be thinking about more than just web, more than just mobile, more than just a touch screen. They have to be integrated because the business is asking for personalization. They're asking for, if I do this on this channel, what will it do on that channel? Responsiveness. And I think from a product owner, product designer standpoint, like having that in your mind, and then from a developer as well, how do these things branch? What do I have to create from I love the talk of the plumbing and everything they have to create to support then all these experiences omni-channel. Over the past year, I was actually down in IT working on technical delivery because we had no infrastructure, no APIs, nothing to allow us to do product ordering at a store. So it took us an entire year and a lot of money to get to the point where we can now iterate really quickly on a product standpoint.
I don't know, I'm kind of lost here. Key premise of the next decade, it's easier for software to enter other industries than for other industries to hire software people, especially in Oklahoma City. We might need some help with that, tech systems. But basically, you see that industries are being taken over by software companies, people who are launching with brand new tech and no dependencies and no legacy and no stores running Windows 98 and old POS systems to have to support. And they're able to just leapfrog people. And so companies like Sonic need to really catch up. And I think I want to talk to you more about how GE is doing it. But we need to be able to catch up and to be able to move at a pace and at a scale that we haven't before. I'm just going to leave this up here. I'm not going to explain it. It's something you can read later. But it's kind of a progression of how we see design influencing companies over time. Here's a good example. How many people in here have a bank account? A lot. How many people have the app for your bank? Has anybody never gone back to the bank after you got the app? The app is literally, I have 3 different banks, and I never go to the bank. I just use apps for all of them, and that's the only brand touch point I have with my bank anymore, is using their app. And so as digital kind of just eats things and eats parts of your product experience, you have to invest more in it, because things are going to happen where you're going to be up against a competitor that doesn't have any stores. All they have is their app, and their app is freaking awesome. And so when it comes to Sonic, the red button is a thing that we have that's kind of a historical thing. It's the drive-in, but it's going to be in the app in a few months because it's going to have to be. And so we're trying to figure out how to explain to Sonic how to invest in that, because we can pull all of the interaction off lot and then have all that we really need on lot. It saves us a lot of money in the long run. This is our last pitch for the Sonic app. If you've never downloaded it before and you don't have a Sonic account, you can get a free slush when you download the app. That's all I have to say. There's a lot of fraud reasons why we can't give them to everybody, but there we go. Okay, here you go.
All right, transitioning. So originally it was Sonic and Woodshed, and we try and separate the two because at work we can't talk about Woodshed. We can only talk about Woodshed outside of work. And Woodshed is a side project that Brad and I started about 2 years ago with another guy. And really what Woodshed was kind of a birth out of that side project mentality. And I think if you're a designer, you're somebody who's building something, a developer, like what are you building in those off hours that you can be proud of? If you're working in a corporation, sometimes the process is super slow. We've been here 3 years. It's taken us 3 years to launch 3 different apps on a platform. And that is a slow and arduous process. And I think from a side project standpoint, there's just so many things you can do. And so I'm passionate about coffee and tea. We'll get into a little bit on, you can go to the next one. Oh, no, that's yours. Sorry about that. But we'll come back to me in a second.
So a little reason on why I own part of a tea company now. I didn't drink tea. I didn't know anything about tea. This is what I thought of when I thought of tea was papyrus. And then if you want to talk fancy tea, you're talking triangle bags. And that's where it really gets exciting. But really, whenever I met Sam at Sonic, we kind of bonded over coffee. It was like the typical designer thing. He's like, oh, you like really good coffee? Really? Me too. But he really liked tea, and so he introduced me to tea and showed me that tea is actually really, really cool and really interesting on its own, and it's not just in tea bags. And so for me, this is a really cool visual problem to be able to explain this to people and make this really be interesting beyond just buying tea bags. And the brewing process for tea in itself is really beautiful too.
Yeah, so wanted to talk really quickly about why tea and what are we doing with tea as it relates to the digital product. Because we started, we were talking about Sonic and the digital products we're doing there, and we wanted to kind of showcase from a side project standpoint the things we can do when we can really own everything. At Sonic, we have a lot of limitations. We have a ton of different departments and teams that have a say into what we're building, and so there's these guardrails that we always have to kind of go within. With Woodshed, we can create and deliver something in what I probably spend maybe 4 hours a week on it, and I do the packaging. So I mean, that's mainly what I do. And Brad spends, we both have newborns, so he spends a little bit of time, not very much time, but we want to be proud of things that we release. And so when I was at a startup in Salt Lake City at Alpha Da Vinci, nobody wanted to do tea. They were just doing coffee brewer and wanted to do coffee. And I said, hey, I'm doing sales and marketing for them, so I'll learn T, no big deal. And we found that T actually became the #1 reason people wanted this machine. And a lot of it is because the experience and the color. And so with that kind of mindset, we really went into the development process of our website. So we said, how can we build a very simple website that really showcases a small amount of curated teas using color? So real quickly, we'll go through kind of the Ginger Mint, Nilgiri Blue Mountain, and the High Mountain Oolong. And wanting that color to kind of bring through the process into our digital product. And then I want to pass it to Brad because we started out very like most lovable product. What's the cheapest way we get to something and get it out the door? And this was the first iteration of our packaging.
One of the I'll go real quick. One of the great things about having your own company is you can do whatever you want, and you can change your packaging whenever you want, and we can make this new stuff, and so we don't have to get approved. I just have to have Sam approve it, and then we decide to change it, and we might change it again. But that's our new packaging. We have mailers. This is stuff that we probably would buy the really cheap, crappy stuff, but we tried it out because we thought it was cool. And so we've gotten to do a lot of interesting things with Woodshed that we probably wouldn't have gotten to do otherwise. We get to write our own copy, which is fun. We built a brewing timer for our website that I'm sure nobody really uses other than me, but I like it, and it's fun. I did not want to think about exercising with like a stopwatch timer in the morning, and so I decided I wanted something a little more zen to drink tea with. But it's really fun to build stuff like this. And kind of going to Sam's point, the digital design and physical design kind of going back and forth. When we built the tea timer, it influenced the way that we did our packaging. And so on the new packaging, we have these icons. It's a little bit more, almost a little UI, instead of that text description that we had before. I think that's all.
Yeah, I think in closing, hopefully that you want to take away a couple things. Is one, product design from a big corporation standpoint, there's a lot you can do, and you have access to money and funds and things that you'll never get to work on. There's a lot of problems to solve. Then on, and there's a lot of scale, a lot of people using it, and a lot of feedback. And then on a side project standpoint, you can have fun, and you can be really passionate about something that you love and that you want to share with others. So that's kind of the end of our little talk. We'll take some questions, and we are giving away 2 bags of tea. So maybe if there's like a sign-up sheet, we can just randomly pick 2 people off that sign-up sheet, but we can do that in a bit. Questions? I'll try and answer it, and then you can probably add some detail. But so because our in-store experience is really non-existent, it's car, and you drive up, the stall is really our in-store experience. So what we've tried to do from a design system standpoint is first get a normalized style guide. So you'll see some consistency on POPs, mobile, and the web. Now those are just going to get better, and Brad can probably go on a diatribe about how you get from a style guide to a design system as a brand, and that's really important, and I think that gets to what you're saying. Is in a brand, you have the store to take into account. And so what is Sonic? And how do you design towards Sonic while also pushing the boundary?
I'm not sure if you're asking more from a design standpoint or from like a technical standpoint of how we're bridging the like digital experience while you're at the store, you mean? I think that's what we try to do with creating that personalized experience with the stalls to where you can check in at an individual screen. We're trying to make it to where whenever you check in, you don't do it at the very end. Originally, we had a mobile payment solution that it only let you authenticate right at the very end, so we didn't know who you were until you paid and you were about to leave. And what we're trying to do with check-in is not really force that on you, but allow you to check in earlier in the process so that we can enable that more personalized experience. One of the things we've talked about, one of the things we talked about, I never know because we're like a real company and stuff, but is a heads-up display inside the drive-in that would be connected to our actual user accounts. So if somebody drives up who has the app, we know who they are, we know what they order, we know what their favorites are. Borderline creepy, but it actually is a real experience at the drive-ins, especially in these small towns where you have one drive-in that's maybe one of a few restaurants. Everybody knows the people who are there, and you see the same people every day. And so if we can take that like super personalized experience you get with people and turn that into a technological advancement that we can put in the rest of the stores for the people who aren't that great, we can really power up the store experience a little bit more.
Yeah, so we launched a year and a half ago, and I think because I had knowledge coming of the industry coming in, that would have probably been the biggest obstacle, and then really money, because we're going between Sonic, where we have literally a lot of money, and then to our own thing where we're funding it out of our own pocket. I think that's one of the biggest obstacles. Design-wise, it's a niche, right? It's not something that a lot of people know about, and so being able to educate people about tea with our product is the biggest goal. We don't want to overwhelm you with options. We want to give you a curated list and then really teach you about those things. So right now, it's really education. Oh yeah, I mean it is bootstrapped. It is our kind of funded from our wallets and our time. So right now that's how we're operating, and everything's most lovable product. So to that point is we're building stuff on our off hours and trying to get it to a place. And really we operate Sonic in a lot of the same ways. It just takes a lot longer to get to that point. You just see releases take a lot of time, even though from our standpoint we designed it really quickly in that methodology at the beginning. Cool. Last one. How are we doing? I might have an answer. I mean, I don't know. I think like absolutely. So Brad and I, and the way we work, and much like back in the day when Zach and I were together, it's a lot of conceptualizing options for users, taking it to the customer to prototype, and then bringing it back into the application and seeing how it works. And so the concept of order ahead has been done for almost a year and a half, maybe 2 years, but we're now seeing it in play, right, at play. And I think the same thing that we've done in Woodshed. Brad could probably speak to specifics, but I mean the brew guide for one. I mean there's probably 100 options of how we've taken some of that design that we've gotten to go a little bit ahead on and brought it back into Sonic.
I got nothing.
Well, what do you guys think? Our first lightning rounds, we did pretty good, right? Yeah? Okay. I'm actually kind of proud that we stayed on time and we got through these pretty good. So if you have questions or you want to continue the conversation, please do that. Find an announcement sheet. There's probably some hanging out. Feel free to stick around. There's lots of cookies left and some water. Feel free to hang out and meet each other. A lot of people hang out for 30 to an hour, so feel free to do that. And let's see, next month we are back here again, and we have Will Phillips. He was behind our Twitter account tonight. He was live tweeting the whole time, and he'll be speaking about startup design and just kind of what it takes to be a part of that team and getting a product launched. And then we're also doing show and tells after he's done speaking that are a little bit more print design oriented. We have Danielle. Oh my goodness, her last name is Danielle. Is here is how I know her on Instagram. But I'm sorry, Evans. That doesn't sound right. Yes. Okay. I don't know. Perhaps Danielle Evans. Okay. But she's amazing typographer, and Danielle is here is her handle on Instagram. You can check her out. She's going to be talking about a recent project, and then also JD Reeves has recently done a book about places in Oklahoma that you don't often think to go to, and he's going to be talking about that process. And then I don't see Chroma Print here tonight, but I talked to him about doing something. He didn't confirm next month, but he is up for something, so probably him. And so yeah, we'll see you guys next week, and thanks so much for being here.